Hello, guys. Welcome back to Guys at the Sound Football. I'm FPL Rich, and I'm joined here by MIGS. And today we're going to be going over our Game Week 11 team selection. But before we do that, we're going to first go over our Game Week 10 review. After that, we're going to go over some heroes and zeros, a bit of a new section where we kind of name the best players that scored the biggest points and the players that scored the least amount of points. And after that, we're going to go over, of course, our Game Week 11 transfer plan, and then we're going to go over our Game Week 11 team selection. Let's get right into it. Okay, so let's first go over our Game Week 10 review. I managed to score 58 points this week with a really good green arrow, hitting me into the top 1 million. So overall, a very good game week in terms of the players that played for this game week, since the average was 39 points. Did put my captaincy on Salah over Holland, mainly because Salah is a bit more of a differential in terms of captaincy, and Holland has not been doing as good in terms of scoring points this week. Overall, who else scored very big within my team was Ollie Aina with that massive 15 points. Nottingham Forest has been performing very well overall. They are placed number 3 in the Premier League, so a very good start for Nottingham Forest. And with Ollie Aina, he kept the clean sheet, and also he scored a really good goal against West Ham. Another good player within my team was Chris Wood from Forest as well. He did score a goal. I think he did get subbed off a little bit early. I think within the around the 70th minute. Overall, my transfer that I did do was Raya to Pickford. That didn't go as planned. Overall, it was a pretty good. I still like the transfer. Pickford, Everton. That Everton against Southampton game was pretty much 0-0 up until the 85th minute. So overall, Everton do play very defensively, and overall, moving forward, I do like Pickford in my team. So let's go on to Miggs' team and how he performed.
Yeah, so now going on to what I did for game week 10, I got 47 points. I also went up in rank a little bit, still in the 2 millions, but I think Matt Sells did have a good game. My defenders didn't do very well. Arnold with 2, Gabriel with 2, Rico Lewis with 1. And then my midfield also didn't do very well. Son did come back, and he did get an assist, but he was taken out a bit early. And then Welbeck did get an assist as well. I think the player that really saved my game week, as I was probably going to get a very poor score in terms of points, was Solanke with 16 points. He did get 2 goals and then 1 assist in that win up against Aston Villa. Yeah, this is what I did for this game week. I really like my team, but this is what I have.
Okay, so now moving on to the new section that we did create. It's called Heroes and Zeros of Game Week 10. A bit of a new section, kind of, as I said, kind of talked about in the intro, the best scoring players and the players that scored the least amount of points. So let's go into our first 4 players. So our first 4 players I have listed it here is Lewis Hall, Aina, Bruno Fernandes, and Chris Wood. Overall, the reason I know Lewis Hall is probably a bit more of a player that most FPL content creators are not talking about. The reason I put him in here is because myself personally, I'm looking at Lewis Hall to make a potential transfer within my side, especially with that cheap option at 4.3 million. Could definitely save me a bit of a bit in the bank. Also, the fact that Lewis Hall has been starting pretty much every game for Newcastle, and he's been playing the full 90 minutes as well. He's also a very attacking player. He could get assists, even get a goal or 2. Overall, that's why I have Lewis Hall in this list. Moving on to Ollie Aina. Ollie Aina, a very good option within that 4.5, 4.7 range. If you have the budget for him, he has gone up in price. But for me, I do have him in my team, and I'm very glad that I have him in my team. Forest have been performing very well since the start of the season, and it kind of shows in the placings that they're in. They're number 3 in the Premier League right now. But I do believe that their fixtures are starting to turn, so they're going to have a bit more bad fixtures. And me personally, I wouldn't do the transfer from to Oleana. I think it's just a bit too late. If you had him, you kind of if you have him already, I would just suggest keeping him, especially for that Newcastle at home fixture. But yeah, I mean, Olegaina is a pretty good price player at 4.7. Moving on to Bruno Fernandes at 8.2. Bruno Fernandes has scored 10 points this week against Chelsea. He did score a penalty within that home fixture against Chelsea, and United do have that new manager bounce. So hopefully Bruno Fernandes does keep a bit of his form. And he is on pens. So to have a player on pens at 8.2, a bit of a premium option. I do believe Manchester United do have a bit more better fixtures as well. So yeah, a good option overall. Moving on to our last player on this list, we have Chris Wood. Chris Wood has been performing so good. I did talk about in the last video that I was kind of potentially thinking of transferring him out for Acuna. I just don't see myself doing that anytime soon. He's just on really good form. He has scored again. He's also gone up again in price. Chris Wood just keeps. I don't think it makes sense to really get rid of a player like Chris Wood, especially when he's on really good form. Even with the fixture swings, I'm still probably going to keep him as probably up until that Ipswich at home fixture. But yeah, let's move on to the next session. The next section of players.
So now going on to the next heroes on our list, we got a set of 4 players, and it consists of Guardiola, Solanke, Semenyo, and Mohamed Salah. Guardiola with 7 points this week, another goal in that loss up against Bournemouth, but definitely a good player to have on your team. Very attacking defender, and this is a player that I'm thinking about getting. And then we have Dominic Solanke, also another player who scored very big this game week. As Tottenham is probably, I think they're number 1 ranked for the most offensive team. I was thinking about, he does have a good fixture this week up against Ipswich, and definitely I wouldn't be transferring him out this week. I know I mentioned transferring him out afterward, but considering, like I said, Tottenham, a very offensive team, I might even keep him. But it all depends on how Postecoglou is lining up his squad, as I think it all depends on that. And then also Semenyo with Bournemouth. I believe he also got a goal with 10 points, and that went up against Manchester City. And this player, I'm also considering myself, as he does have, I believe, probably the next 8 fixtures are very good fixtures for Bournemouth, and is a player that really contributes on the offensive end of his team. And then we also have Mohamed Salah, who has been on a tear, and he did get another goal, 9 points. I think this player is definitely a player, if I'm gonna myself consider, if maybe like a Holland isn't producing, definitely a player to bring in instead of like having Holland. This player, I think he's leading the boards right now in points, but definitely a player to consider as well.
Okay, now moving on to the zeros of this game week. We have 4 players on this list. First off, we have David Raya, Holland, Calvert-Lewin, and Havertz. We have 2 Arsenal players, but we'll get into that. First with David Raya, I just don't think for the price that he's placed at 5.6, he's way too expensive for the points that he's been producing. Ever since game week 6, ever since pretty much we've done the wild card, David Raya has not really he hasn't kept any clean sheets. And moving forward, I think he has a couple of horrible fixtures as well. So I did get rid of him last game week, and I'm very for Pickford, and I'm not looking back. Moving on to Holland. Holland has just not been on it anymore. He hasn't scored. He scored last game week, but he hasn't scored in the Champions League today as well, against a very I would say a really relatively easy game. Moving forward, I just don't see myself. I do see myself keeping him, but I just don't see myself captaining him. Not until he shows me that he can pick up some form. especially at that price at 15.3. I do see why a lot of people are transferring them out, especially for Salah. If you don't have Salah on your team, it's definitely probably something that I would do, but I have both of them, so I'm definitely gonna probably keep calling. Moving on to Carvert Lewin. This is a player that I did have in my team for a little bit. I did transfer him out for Wood, and I haven't looked back. He did go down in price to 5.9. If you have Calvert Lewin, I think it's time to get rid of him. He did. Everton did have, and they still have those kind of good fixtures, but Calvert Lewin has not produced anything pretty much since I got him. I think that was in game week 6. I think there's so many good players priced at that option. There's like a Strad Larson from Wolves and a Cunha at 6.5 if you can afford it. Even a Chris Wood. There's just so many good players around that price, and Calvert Lewin has not done anything. I think it's time to get rid of him. Moving on to our last player on the list, we have Kai Havertz. We have two Arsenal players. Kai Havertz is pretty relatively highly owned for the strikers. As I would say the same thing that goes from Calvert-Lewin to Havertz. There's so many good players priced at that option. There's a Solanke, which just scored 16 points. There's Cunha, Wood, Strad Larson. There's so many good players, forwards, relatively priced at that price or at that price point. I just don't think Havertz is a good option to hold anymore, especially with the Arsenal fixtures. I just don't believe Havertz is really going to score big anymore. But yeah, this is the section. This is our new section, Heroes and Zeros. Now let's move on to our Game Week 11 transfer plans. Okay, so now moving on to my Game Week 11 transfer plan. And I have already done one of the free transfers. I did have 2 free transfers, and I think I had 1.4 in the bank since I did get rid of Raya for Pickford last game week. But as you can see, I've already done one of the transfers. And the first transfer I did do was Raul Jimenez to Cunha. I know Raul Jimenez does have 2 more, I would say, good game weeks, especially against Crystal Palace. I guess Crystal Palace away. Fulham are a very good side. I just don't see Raul Jimenez. He hasn't scored in the last 2 fixtures. Raul Jimenez is one of those players where he has to be on good form in order to kind of justify me keeping him. Whereas with Cunha, I just think Cunha is a better player, a better striker, and Wolves do have the really good run of fixtures, especially with this game week against Southampton at home. I just couldn't really wait one more game week to get Cunha just because his price is continuously rising, and he's also going to rise again to probably tonight. He's going to rise up to 6.7. So I had to get him in my squad before that price rise. So I did sell Raul Jimenez to Cunha. My second transfer that I'm planning on doing is probably looking into my defense a bit more and kind of having that budget, or I'm trying to increase my budget a bit more. I do have Collins, and that's the main person I'm looking at to replacing. Brentford have not been keeping any clean sheets. They haven't. I don't think they've even been kept one in the Premier League. So my second transfer that I'm possibly going to be doing for Game Week 11, I haven't done it yet, but it's probably going to be Collins to Lewis Hall. I did speak about Lewis Hall earlier in the video. Lewis Hall is just a bit of a cheaper option. Also with Newcastle just kind of picking up in form with that latest win against Arsenal, and Lewis Hall being that attacking player where he could get a assist as well within the game. I just definitely it's definitely a player that I kind of have my eye on. This is probably going to be the second transfer I do within this game week. So let's look into my game week 11 team selection. So moving on to my game week 11 team selection, given that I do those 2 free transfers, I probably will be lining up with a 3-4-3, and I'll have 0.6 in the bank. I'll be starting with Pickford in goal against West Ham away. My back 3 will be consisting of Gabriel, Lewis Hall, and Ali Aina. My midfield 4 will be Son, Mbeumo, McNeil, and Mohamed Salah. And my front 3 will be Cunha, Chris Wood, and Holland. My captaincy is currently on Salah against that Aston Villa home fixture. Aston Villa getting battered away last fixture against Spurs. I just think Mohamed Salah is going to probably get a couple goals, hopefully, maybe an assist or 2. And my vice captaincy is on Son. Son probably has the best fixture out of everyone here against that Ipswich at home fixture. It's more of the fact that I don't really know. He did get subbed off earlier, pretty early in the last game against Aston Villa, even though he was playing pretty well, in my opinion. I just think against Ipswich at home, if he was on form and if I could guarantee that he's gonna play a full 90 minutes, that's probably would be my captain for this week. But my vice captaincy is currently on Son. Holland does not have any of those rights because he hasn't really scored anything. He would have to prove it to me against Brighton. But yeah, this is my game week 11 team selection.
Going on to my game week 11 transfer plan. I honestly am not thinking about doing a transfer this game week, as we are after this game week going to be rolling back into international break, and I want to have two free transfers for that after for game week 12, and that's why I'm gonna be rolling this game week. I like my squad. There are some tough fixtures for a couple players, but I like my squad overall. And now looking into my team selection for this game week, I do have Matt Sells in goal. He is going to be playing at home against Newcastle. And I do have Fabianski in the bench. Also does have a good fixture at home against Everton. He has been playing as of late, but I just like Matt Sells more. He is a player that has been getting clean sheets, and I see more potential in this game, more potential for points. And then I do have a back line of three with Alexander Arnold, Gabriel, and Rico Lewis, and then midfield four of Embuemo, Smith Rowe, Son, and Saka, and then three strikers up top with Welbeck, Solanke, and Holland. And my captaincy is on Son, but just some things to point out here. I do really like that fixture for Liverpool up against Aston Villa at home, and I'm hoping some attacking returns from Alexander Arnold. And then we do have Son, who is going to be Tottenham, as of this recording, hasn't played in the Europa League, but I am expecting that against this Ipswich team, he is going to be playing at least 80 minutes, 90 minutes, and it's a really good fixture coming off of what Tottenham has done up against the Aston Villa, and they are the most offensive team in the league right now, up with 22 goals, I believe. And then Smith Rowe, also a player that I brought in last week, did have some opportunities in game week 10, wasn't able to convert. But this game week up against Crystal Palace, expecting a little bit more. Hopefully he'll be able to get some points as well. And then Embuemo obviously still has a good fixture. Danny Welbeck does have a tough fixture up against Manchester City. But the thing is, he is going to be playing at home. He is a player that really does produce up in the attacking end of Brighton. So hopefully he'll be able to get a goal. But it is going to be a very tough fixture up against Manchester City. And then we do still have Solanke, and then Holland. No captaincy on him, as he hasn't proved himself as of late, but I do think that this is really a really good fixture, even if you're still have confidence in captaining him this week. I do think this is a really good fixture, as Brighton doesn't really have the best defensive team, but it all depends on how they come out and play the game. But I think this is really going to be a one-sided game for Man City, and Man City might even demolish Brighton. But hoping that Welbeck will at least get something on the other end. And yeah, this is I do have zero million in the bank, and this is my lineup for this game week. Please let me know what y'all think.
And that is all for this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys all next week for our game week 12 team selection.